When I was detained by the police, I thought I was only going to be in detention for a couple of hours, and my parents would later come to pick me up. Later that day, I was told I would be taken to a juvenile detention center. Fear took hold of me. I had just turned 15. The authorities did not explain the whole process to me. A female guard just took me to my cell. I was afraid of the other girls, as they were complete strangers. The next day, I began what would be my routine for the next 3 years. Wake up at 5 a.m., fold my clothes, make the bed, and help cleaning the cell block, take a shower, and put my hair in an updo. By 7 a.m., the guards checked attendance, as if we had somewhere else to be. They checked if we had any new bruises or scars. All 3 meals of the day were held inside our cell block. We didn't go to the dining room because that's where the boys had their meals, and the administration didn't want any harassment or catcalling incidents. Some days, there would be activities throughout the day. Some days, there was nothing to do. We sometimes had some classes, but none of them lasted more than 3 months. We were promised a boxing class, but then the administration thought it would make girls more aggressive. Instead, we were put in an eating class, held in a classroom with no ventilation because pieces of cardboard were placed in the windows so the boys could not see us. The boys had carpentry and electricity classes. When the girls asked to participate in those classes, we were told that we had to be smart in order to attend. Only 4 of us attended these classes because we had a high school degree. The rest of the girls were left all day in their cells. One time, almost all activities were taken away from girls for 1 month. Our only activity was going to the commissary to buy things, and that was only for the girls who had credit. So the idea of a mutiny began making its way among us. We thought, there is nothing else they can punish us with or take away from us. Perhaps if we had access to activities that would put our minds to better use, we would not have come up with such stupid ideas. A bored mind births the worst kind of thoughts. We didn't follow through with the mutiny. The one thing that kept us going were the visitation days. At first, both of my parents would come to visit me. But then my father became sick and he could no longer come. My mother never skipped a visitation day, and my siblings would sometimes show up with her. It was not the same case for the other girls. Many of them had parents who did not care about them. Others had very poor parents that sometimes lived far from the detention center and just could not afford to come to see them, even if they wanted to. Out of 15 of us, only 5 would get visits, and those other 10 girls were always the ones who behaved the worst and talked back to the guards. They did it because our punishment for bad behavior was to take away our visits, so they really did not care because there were no consequences for their actions. Deep down, they were just very sad and lonely girls. They would sometimes ask us, the ones with visits, to take them along with us during our visits from our families. I guess they were very upset about not seeing anyone for months or years. They just wanted to be a part of a nice moment, even if it was with other people's families. Before I was detained, I was never involved in any kind of criminal activities. I went to a party with some people I met through a friend. We all got inside someone's car and drove to the party. I did not know that it was a stolen car. I think the punishment I received was way too harsh, as I was not aware that I was even committing a crime. I was just a naive young girl who wanted to party with what I thought were just some cool kids. There were many inconsistencies in my case. First, I was told I would only spend 6 months in detention while the investigation happened, but in the end, I spent 10 months waiting for any kind of resolution. I was sentenced to 2 years of detention. When I was about to come out, I was told there was a second case against me. Apparently, there was some stolen property inside the stolen car, and they believed I was involved in that, which was not true. Before I was in the detention center, I had tried alcohol and smoked, but not to the extent of being an addict. I was actually an above-average student, and I played the drums in the school band. My mother even took some of my teachers to the courthouse to testify I was not a criminal. I was involved in an illicit act, but I should not have been convicted of any of the crimes I was allegedly responsible for. In order to reduce my sentence, the only legal resource I had was to declare myself guilty, even if I knew I wasn't. The judge who ruled my case said I could have had my time reduced even further, but perhaps I needed more time to think about my actions. She blatantly said, "All you misbehaving children say you will change just to get out faster, but you never really do." In the end, I served 3 years in detention. On my last day, my mother came to pick me up at 12 a.m., since the day had finished and she was not going to leave me there even one more minute than needed. I left the detention center at 12:01. During the time I spent in the detention center, I met people who were real-life criminals, and in order to survive, I had to toughen up and become more aggressive. I used to be a rebellious teen, but I was not a delinquent. When I finally got out, I realized that I had lost 3 years of my life in prison, and all I wanted to do then was study, because during my time in detention, I was not given the tools to learn. When I came out and tried going to school again, I thought I was not going to be able to pass any test or assignment. My self-esteem was very low, and I thought I was just not good enough to pursue a career. I then decided to become a physical education teacher because I thought it would be the easiest career. After a while, I became depressed because that was not my true calling. I wanted to study law. I put all of my effort into turning the page in my life to become a better person, and so I enrolled in law school. I am still not sure if I believe in justice. Some of the girls who were in prison with me were real car robbers, and they left within 6 months because they were drug addicts, so they were put in rehab centers for far less time. There was nothing beneficial to me being in prison. The things I learned, I did for myself. Yes, I did learn how to read when I was there, but I was never encouraged to grab a book. I went to the library on my own. Now that I study law, I believe in fair punishments. If a kid is at fault, then surely they need to be corrected, but it needs to be proportionate to their whole case and circumstances. Some kids come from very harsh family situations, and they need another kind of assessment. And in many cases, prison is not the answer. I want to be a more empathetic lawyer now that I know how things are inside for these boys and girls. We go into prison as kids, and by the time we are out, we are considered to be adults, but we don't know how to be adults. We need to enter the workforce, but we have no experience doing anything. The stigma surrounding people who were imprisoned can play a role in us not getting a job or educational opportunities. I just want to tell you, and other juvenile offenders, that we can turn the page and prove wrong those who don't believe in us.